I approached this as a health journey, and I knew that I needed the tool, and I needed, all the tools. And I was excited because I know my work ethic and I know what I'm capable of doing, when the playing field is even. But the playing field wasn't even because I'm a middle-aged woman with menopause, and I couldn't do it. Like, there's no way that if I didn't have because I remember going back to her, and I'm sitting in her office and one of my visits, and she was like, "Well, I'm so happy. I'm proud of you." But then she walks over to me and takes asks me to lift my arm. I lift my arm and starts jiggling my arm and says, "You need to be doing some strength training, is what you need to be doing." And she says, matter of fact, that's all you need to be doing. Like, she literally said that. And so,
Do you have something against the shakes, the protein shakes, or you just don't like the way they taste?
I have something against them, and I don't like the way they taste.
Okay, all right. So what do you have against them? Tell us that, because we get that you might not like the
So,
taste. You started off at 158. You have lost 41 pounds, and that's awesome. That is awesome. Now,
way
what do
more
you
than what I wanted to.
yeah, you didn't really seek out that
I
wasn't
didn't.
your starting goal. And I think that
Mhm.
that evolves over time. I've noticed so many people had one goal and then they ended up somewhere else. And I think that's why you give yourself a range. Some people I
Yes.
notice now have been giving themselves a body fat percentage that they want to, get to.
Mm.
A clothing size is another, goal you could have. And, if you want to push away from the scale, I can see
Yeah.
that.
Sure.
So I think that that's great. So what do you say to people who say like, okay, this lady lost 41 pounds. Why did she even need to take a GLP-1? What would you say to
Yeah.
them?
What do I say? I'm going to give you some breaking news.
Break it down.
So I have not been, I was finding myself at a place where I was struggling to really eat enough. And so, well, for a long time, since last year, I was, I think I had started maybe taking Zepbound every 2 weeks, and then every 3 weeks, and then finally once a month. And then I was having issues late summer, early fall, September, October, yeah, September, October, November. And I,
Hello, 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 and welcome, welcome. Well, today I have with me the Mel B. And Mel, I'm so excited to have you here. How are you?
I'm happy to be here with you too. I am doing very well, enjoying the holiday season. It's been incredible the past week or so. So I'm good. Thank you.
That's good. That's good. Well, this conversation has been in the making. I will tell you, Mel and I have been trying to do an interview for months now, and we finally caught up with each other and enough to sit down and record an interview. So, Mel, I'm going to tell you, I'm excited to speak with you today because I always tell Mel this, and she knows, but I'm going to share with you guys. There are a lot of Mel Bs out there, and I think that Mel's story is important because it tells the story of someone who was not only on a journey to lose weight, but to get healthy. And so I love that about your story because I feel like you've been on a health journey. And I'm excited for you to share that with everybody and just talk about what led you up to that health journey and what you're doing to, maintain your health. So, can you start off by just telling us a little bit about yourself? Who is the Mel B?
Who is the Mel B? Well, the Mel B is a 50 plus, I'll leave you in suspense, a 50 plus woman who is a professional, who determined, wow, it's been a long time, about a year and a half ago, that I needed to take control of my health. And it started with my hormonal health back in March of 2024. And um, it ended up including what I like to call my hormone stack, which is the estradiol, the progesterone. I had all of my labs checked, and my doctor and I had determined I was going to be reintroducing hormone replacement therapy into my life. And at the same time, the menopausal sort of midsection, it was like everything was in the middle life, middle of the body fat, middle of a journey, all of those things. So I ended up on bioidentical hormone replacement therapy in addition to this peptide slash hormone slash Zepbound. So yeah, that's how I ended up on it. Of course, my story goes further back. So
Well, tell us a little bit about that. So tell us what led you up to taking the GLP-1? How did you discover it? How did you hear about it? What led up to that?
well, my doctor essentially had recommended it. I later found out that her husband was taking it, and she was too. Um, excuse me. She recommended it actually prior to March 2024, several months prior. But when I was in there, talking about symptoms of menopause, like brain fog, and I told her that I had been researching the importance of estradiol. I told her about my journey from years before, because I previously was at a place in my life where I was living in the DC area. I was in my 30s and found out that I had chronic fibroids, and fibroids can be chronic. Um, Essentially they impacted my health in such a negative way. I remember one day being in group interviews. I was working for a financial institution at the time. I work for a financial institution now, but at the time we were doing group interviews for some of our staffing needs, and it was me and one of my peers who was a friend of mine. We were regional managers for this bank, and I started feeling horrible. I, at the time, had really stopped having monthly cycles because the fibroids were essentially draining my blood supply, literally. I think my blood levels were like at 5, which is low, like anything beneath 10. And I was, I believe, at like 5. And I found out because I ended up having to leave those group interviews. I drove myself to urgent care against my peer, my teammates' judgment. She didn't want me to do that. But again, we were interviewing a group of people, 30 people who had waited to do these group interviews. And so I wasn't going to allow those to be stopped. So I drove myself to urgent care. Ultimately, I ended up in the hospital because urgent care was like, you need to go to the hospital. Um, and so my fiance at the time actually was the one that transported me. They were going to put me in an ambulance, but I called him and he came. I went to the hospital and they started doing tests. I already knew what was wrong, but it was their responsibility. I knew it was the fibroids, but it was their responsibility to make sure that they did their due diligence. And that's why I ended up at the hospital. My doctor later showed up at the hospital and was like, because she had been on me about doing something about these fibroids. And at that time, when she showed up at the hospital, she was like, we have to do something. She was like, your blood levels are low. This isn't going to go away. We have to have a plan. And so she and I ultimately came up with a plan. And that plan is that I would have a myomectomy, which is the surgical removal of fibroids, um, or a hysterectomy. Um, I don't have kids, didn't have kids at that time, don't have kids now, which obviously answers the question. I ended up having a total abdominal hysterectomy of just a few months after that, you know, after landing in the hospital for a day. And
Now
I
let me ask you, why did you opt for that instead of the other procedure?
Good question. So what ended up happening was we went in with my doctor and I actually signed a waiver because we didn't know if something else was going on. And I think my doctor had an inkling. I know she did because she later told me. And I don't think I've ever mentioned this to you, but I ended up having horrible endometriosis as well as the fibroids. And the endometriosis and the fibroids were so bad that if you had tried to remove my fibroids from the wall of my uterus would have been like Swiss cheese. That's that's what would have happened because of the placement of those fibroids on the outside and inside of my uterine lining. So I had signed a waiver, and we knew that if she went in and things were a mess and things were really bad, that I was going to end up having to have a hysterectomy. And so I ended up having a total abdominal hysterectomy. And I was in the hospital for several days because I refused to eat. I mean, I just couldn't. I was like dry heaving and, I was being the queen bee Leo that I am. And I was like, I can't eat. Uh, so they were like, you're not leaving the hospital until you eat and have a movement. They want you to, before sending you home. So on the sixth day, I think I woke up and I was like, I want mashed potatoes and carrots and meatloaf. And they were like, get the girl some meatloaf, get the girl some meatloaf. So that kind of happened. It was that actually did happen. And they were happy because, the insurance company does not want you in the hospital for 6 days. That's just like
Mhm.
unheard of. So I ate and, eventually was able to, within that next 24 hours, able to go home. Now, when I ended up going home, I didn't really recall the conversation with my doctor about what was going to happen. I don't even know if we actually talked about the specifics, but I remember like on that first night, I believe it was the first or second night I got home, I, I ended up waking up in this cold sweat. Like it was just, I was like, what is going on? I was just sweating, but it was cold. It was just weird. And I woke up the next morning after having to change the sheets. My fiance at the time was like, are you okay? What's going on? Because he was concerned. All he knew is she had surgery and she just got back home from the hospital. What's going on? Well, come to find out, when I called my doctor the next morning, she was like, oh, those are hot. That's like night sweats or whatever, or hot sweats or whatever. Um, and not flashes. It wasn't a flash, but it's something that
Mhm.
happens sometimes women are perimenopause, menopause, and postmenopause. So she told me to run over to my hospital bag, which I did. Grabbed the bag and got back on the phone with her. And she was like, look in the bag. I looked in there and she says, there are patches in there. And so there was a patch. I believe it was estradiol and progesterone. And voila, I ended up on hormone replacement therapy in my 30s. And so I took that, I used that patch for 9 months, not the same patch, but those patches for
Right.
about 9 months. And at the time, it didn't dawn on me to question her, but she had said, we'll have you on it for several months. We'll see how you do. And she ultimately decided she was going to pull me off of the hormone replacement therapy at about 9 months. And so I came off of it. Little did I know, fast forward about 10 years in my 40s, I started having symptoms, brain fog, and I didn't have a lot of hot flashes or anything like that, but I did recognize that my skin was changing, my hair was changing, I lacked focus. I was working really hard. I've always been very active. I was active as a child, doing all kinds of things, swimming and cheerleading. Um, Yet I was having struggles, specifically in my midsection with keeping weight off. And I, was just trying to eat better, just doing all kinds of things to minimize that, working out mostly though. And yeah, so that's kind of how the current journey started. So in my 40s, several years pass, I'm struggling, and I end up during COVID eating the wrong things, drinking too much, picking up weight, so I think over several years, probably picking up about 25 extra pounds or so. And it was too much. So, yeah. So fast forward, my doctor and I talked about hormone replacement therapy. She did immediately tie it to hormone replacement therapy, knowing my lifestyle and knowing that I was a person that worked out and ate a relatively healthy diet, too many frozen foods, but, convenient type lean cuisine and stuff like that. But she recommended it. And so at the same time, I was reintroducing hormone replacement therapy. Uh, we also introduced this hormone known as Tirzepatide. Actually, Zepbound is the actual name. So yeah, that's kind of how I ended up here.
Now, let me ask you, when you talked about like you, because I think women often skip the symptoms and think that, they're going through things they don't necessarily connect it with perimenopause or menopause symptoms. So when you said your hair changed, your skin changed, you noticed those changes, what were the specifics of that? Do you remember?
Yeah, I remember I felt like I was losing hair. Um, my hair had thinned and it changed texture. I have different textures of hair. I really do. Like in the crown, it's curlier. Um, in the back, it's curlier. On the sides, it's kind of straighter, finer. It's just weird, but I remember my hair definitely thin. My skin got drier. I had hyperpigmentation, and I remember I've always had freckles, but I had some little moles too, but they were all cute. And then in this phase, which was menopause, I ended up having more of them. And I was like, what is going on? And then my skin was drier. I always had normal skin, just very balanced, never had problem with acne or anything. And I didn't get acne, but definitely the texture and dryness of my skin, it was really bad. Even my heels, even like my heels and just my hands, everything was just so dry. And
Yeah.
so that was one of my doctor again, menopause. Everything I said to her, menopause, brain fog, menopause, problem with midsection weight, menopause.
Menopause.
She said it's all tied together. And I learned a lot from her. She talked to me about how there's estrogen receptors in every part of our body as women, including up here. And she said, when there's a lack of estrogen running through your body, these are things that can happen. And then we also talked about the fact, and I think you and I've talked about this before, where historically women remember, not that long ago, 100 years, 150 years ago, were dying at the age of 50. And they were, some women, a large percentage, I don't know what that percent is, were dying in childbirth in their 30s.
Yeah.
It was crazy. And now that we're living longer, we have to support that longevity through replacement of hormones. So those are the conversations we were having. And she got me. She had me when she started talking about the fact that some of these symptoms, most of them would likely be resolved if I introduced hormone replacement therapy. So,
Now,
and
this
then she
isn't the
talked about
doctor
the
that
step
you
down.
replaced. Is this your current doctor?
This is my current doctor.
Okay.
I actually, before I formally replaced my current doctor, I actually was seeing the doctor who is now my primary care. I actually went outside to talk about hormone replacement therapy. And she was the one that I went to because she does all the things. She's a cardiologist by trade. We all know that heart attacks are the leading cause of death among women in the United States, maybe worldwide now. Um, she is a weight management specialist. She is a hormone specialist. So she is very well versed on caring for women. So yeah, she's got all these specialties. She's just so good. So yeah, but eventually after I saw that she really cared, and I paid a fee to see her at the time. It was not a large fee. It was like a fee to see her, and then every visit after I had to pay, like a kind of like a co-payment, etc.
Mhm.
She was outside of my network. She's a concierge physician, and I decided to once I had a conversation, I thought maybe I could have this conversation with my primary care. And lo and behold, my primary care shot me down. I was on my chart. I still have the history of our conversations because when I went to see her, she shot me down about hormone replacement therapy. And I was like, oh, is this what we're doing? Girl, I went home and I told her exactly how I felt about our visit, how I didn't like it. And we were going back and forth, toe to toe. But I was standing 10 toes down on the fact that I thought she was being irresponsible for not having an intelligent conversation with me. And that after that happened, it was over. And I said, I can't see her anymore. And I have not seen her since.
Wow.
So there's
Way to be
that.
an advocate for yourself.
Yes, absolutely.
So your doctor introduces you to Tirzepatide, Zepbound. Were you hesitant to take it? Were you excited? And how did that first injection go?
Well, because I started everything at the same time, hormone replace all the hormones, because we know GLP-1 is a hormone as well. Um, I started everything at the same time. No, I wasn't. I was like, you know what, man up. It's time to start this health journey and get well and feel better and look like yourself and feel like yourself. So I really was not. I don't know why. I was just bossed up and was like, it's just, it is what it is. Like I'm about to do this. So I
And
am a
when you
boss.
and when you took you are a boss. And when you took the injection, did you feel pain? Did you think this is something I can continue to do for a long time? How did you feel about it?
Yeah, I approached this as a health journey and I knew that I needed the tool and I needed, all the tools, my estradiol, my testosterone, my Zepbound. I know I needed those three hormones because I felt like this was just a turning point. And I was excited because I know my work ethic and I know what I'm capable of doing, when the playing field is even. But the playing field wasn't even because I'm a middle-aged woman with menopause and I couldn't do it. Like there's no way that if I didn't have my estradiol, my testosterone, and my Zep, that I could do it. I needed that support. So I viewed this as a health journey from the beginning. It wasn't, oh, I need to lose weight. Like it wasn't that. This was really truly a health journey. And that's how I viewed it from day one. So no, I wasn't afraid. I knew I needed to get with it and start the process of feeling better. And that's what I did.
I love that. And so you started off, you said, at 158 pounds. And did you have a goal in mind, like that you wanted to get to?
Yes. Yes. I think initially my doctor and I talked and she was like, I think you'll feel comfortable. And I think she was like saying like 128 or something, which I eventually did get to, by the way. But in my mind, I was like, oh, well, I'm okay with like 130, 130 something. And then she was like, let's see how it goes. She thought it was just arbitrary picking a weight, but in my mind, I was thinking, let me see how I feel. And so I think I ended up at 128. Um, and I think that was like July last year, like very quickly, before July. It very quickly, very quickly. Um, and I was seeing her regularly and she was, saying good job. I even ran into her at the gym because we happened to go to the same gym. And it was like we were at a strength training class because I remember going back to her and I'm sitting in her office and one of my visits and she was like, "Well, I'm so happy. I'm proud of you." But then she walks over to me and takes asks me to lift my arm. I lift my arm and starts jiggling my arm and says, "You need to be doing some strength training, is what you need to be doing." And she says, matter of fact, that's all you need to be doing. Like she literally said that. And I know some people would be offended by that, but I wasn't. She, you know, I, she, we have a good understanding. We kind of banter like that. Um, And so I immediately started making that the priority because I was running for my life before. Like I'm running from dinosaurs. I was on a treadmill, running, doing hit training is good, some of it, a couple times a week. But walking is where the cardio sort of sweet spot is, that zone 2 walking, where you walk and you can have a conversation, but it's a little bit labored, it's a little bit breathy. So you can talk, but you're breathing heavy, slightly heavy as you're walking. That's generally zone 2 walking. And zone 2 cardio is the cardio that kills belly fat. Not belly fat, but visceral fat. So my visceral fat wasn't horrible, but it was not good. And good is under 1. I
Yes.
mean, that's crazy, but it is. And so I walked. I started a walking regimen. I just walked regularly. And I did strength training. And then
Do
I
you
was going,
walk outside or did you walk on a walking pad?
back then I walked outside a little bit, but then I quickly got a walking pad. It was just really convenient, as I work remotely. I work from home full time, have been for 12 years, not during the pandemic. I started working from home a long time ago. And yeah, I got a little walking pad. It's behind me because there's a TV here, and I'll come downstairs and I'll jump on it throughout the day. It's just very, very convenient. However, I also oftentimes will, like during the day, zip outside, walk around the block. I'm a person that moves a lot, maybe too much. And so that's what I do. So I'll go outside, but I definitely in the morning go outside and get my sun to help my circadian rhythm, let my body know to wake up, start moving, start metabolizing, if you will. So yeah.
All right, very good. So have you had any side effects? Did you have any side effects taking the meds?
Mm, besides, I think at the beginning, a little fatigue, no. And that
Okay.
was on 2.5. I was on 2.5 for half the time I was on it, actively losing weight, and then 5 milligrams after that. And I never went any higher. I just kind of stayed between 2.5 and 5 for a long time. Yeah. So, and just a
Very
little
good.
fatigue. Yeah, but I eat a high fiber diet. So, I eat like 45 grams of fiber a day, which I don't recommend. Hashtag not a doctor. My doctor recommended that for whatever reason for me.
Okay.
So, might not
Well, I
be
was
for
going to
everybody.
say, I've seen what you're eating, and you are eating fabulous. And so, and I would attribute that, not this is not everybody, but a lot of people who I hear say that they don't have any side effects. They eat a really wholesome 90, 10%, or maybe 85,
Mhm.
15% diet where they're eating mostly whole foods. So, and I
Yeah.
could be wrong about that, but that's just the connection I've made with interviewing and talking to so many people. So your diet, like I said, is fabulous. Can you tell us, give us an example of what you're eating?
Yeah, and I take pictures almost every day. I don't know why. It's weird, unless I'm going out or I'm doing or I'm at an event or something, but I take pictures of what I eat. I just love to do that. So I usually eat avocado well, let's start with the beginning of the day. First of all, I have for years had, even when I didn't know anything about intermittent fasting. I've been a faster. Even when I was younger, like in my 20s, 30s, I've been like this for a long time. Even I remember in high school, my mom would be wanting us to eat breakfast and I couldn't really. Like I've never been like a breakfast person. I don't know a lot of people say that, but I truly never was. So, um, par for the course, I don't really start eating until midday. I wake up and have sparkling water with apple cider vinegar, a tablespoon or two in like a 32-ounce Yeti, and and then some water with electrolytes. So I usually get probably about 32 ounces of water um, at the beginning of the day. That's like one of the first things I do. And then I wait a couple of hours and I start this, which is my yummy coffee, and I'm on cup number 2. I'm on vacation right now, so
Let's do a
yeah,
cheers.
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 Mm,
This is not coffee, but it's water.
I love it. Well, and here's my sparkling water. I tend to drink a lot of sparkling. I just drink throughout the day. I drink sparkling water and regular water and coffee. I generally don't drink anything else. There was a time when I used to take my creatine with a little bit of orange juice, but I don't do that anymore. It was so funny because my nephew was over here and my little niece, we were baking Christmas cookies, and he saw me that morning after we had baked the cookies take a scoop of creatine, put the powder in my mouth, and then sip my water with apple cider vinegar. And he was like, TT, what are you doing? He was like, that stuff looks white and chalky and dry. And I was like, well, I told him I'm just used to it. So I used to take my creatine at night. I now take it early in the day. So that's another thing that is kind of a staple in my routine. So yeah. But I
Nice.
do eat. Oh, you asked me what I eat. Okay. So I start the day like that with the water, coffee, include and of course the element with the water, plain element. I don't like the flavored ones. But what I eat is I start, like I said, midday, and I usually will have egg whites, probably about 6 to 9 tablespoons of organic egg whites, usually from Sprouts or Whole Foods or Trader Joe's. And then I usually will add one whole egg to that as well. And then I eat it on some type of whole grain bread. It could be the Arnold sandwich thins. It could be a Dave's Killer Bread. Even and now, I love the Hero or the Sola bagels. They have a lot of fiber and a lot of protein. And so I will toast that, put some grass-fed butter on there, and put the eggs or egg white on there. And that's pretty standard for me. That's what I eat. If I have leftover like salmon or something from the night before, I'll throw that in, and then I'll have a big protein start to my day with like 40 something grams of protein. But yeah, so that's how I start my day. And then I eat dinner late, um, usually 7, but sometimes if I have to, it'll be later. It'll be like 8 at night. I don't care. It could be 11. If I'm hungry, I'm gonna eat. If my body needs to eat and I haven't gotten enough for the day, I'm gonna eat. It doesn't matter what time it is. That's just how I am, and it's worked for me, for my body. And so for dinner, I always have an avocado. That's just always. I always have an avocado. I have whole grain rice. Usually it's a rice blend with like brown rice, red rice, spelt, or barley, some type of blend of rice. Always whole grain though. So the avocado, the rice. I love corn, so I usually have like a half a cup of corn at least. Um, and then I have some type of, really good quality protein. I'll have salmon. I love salmon steak. It's very fatty. I get my omega 3s. You only need to do that a couple of times a week to get the omega 3s you need. And remember, the omega 3s helps keep that skin and stuff moist. Um, and then the protein. So what did I say? I said the protein, the corn. I always have some type of green vegetable, always. And that could be a couple of cups of broccoli, a couple of cups of spinach, but generally it's spinach. I eat spinach 75% of the time. And so I steam spinach. So, and then I usually will add like kimchi on there. But I always kind of keep it the same way. But the protein could be salmon, but a lot of times I would say I probably eat more ground turkey or ground chicken, grass-fed ground beef. I do that very often, about 3 times a week. And yeah, and that's kind of what my meal is for the day. And it tastes good. It's just so yummy. I usually season it depending on the mood I'm in. A lot of times I like an Asian seasoning, so I'll get like a spicy Szechuan sauce, put a couple of tablespoons in the ground turkey or ground beef or whatever. But I try to buy the high quality meats because if you do grass fed, the protein count is usually higher. And I'm trying, I do a lot of working out. So yeah, strength training. So yeah.
And so I was
And
going to
that's
ask you as a follow-up to the when you just mentioned the protein, how much protein are you trying to get in each day?
well, for a long time, my goal has been like 100, 120 grams of protein. You know, I, it's hard sometimes. It is hard sometimes, especially when you're eating healthy. And I consider myself a healthy eater. Like if you're not eating a whole lot of supplements and stuff like shakes and bars, and I don't eat a lot of those. I do throughout the week have a Quest protein cookie with a piece of fruit or a banana for a snack, like a late night snack. I generally will have a piece of fruit. I did not say that. A piece of fruit, a Quest protein cookie. Or if I can handle it, I'll have some Greek yogurt. And I like the Greek yogurt with the fruit in it. I know it has more sugar, but it's not a problem for me. So I'll do that and a protein cookie. So I'm automatically adding on 20, 30, 35 grams of protein there. But generally speaking, on average, because I've been looking at this lately, because I do strength training at least 3 times a week, plus Pilates on Saturday. Um, and I've been doing good. I've probably been around 100 to sometimes 115 on average, but there are times like the past week or two, it's been a little tougher because I've been going to events and I don't know. I don't know what I'm getting. And then when I do count it, I'm like, oof, you know, I'm
Yeah.
just not getting 140, 150. I don't know that I need that much. Okay. I really don't.
So tr keeping track of the protein can be cumbersome, as you were
Yes.
explaining.
Yes.
So, but you know you're getting enough because you're getting DEXA scans and your goal is
Yes.
to increase that muscle. Do you have something against the shakes, the protein shakes, or you just don't like the way they taste?
I have something against them and I don't like the way they taste.
Okay, all right. So what do you have against them? Tell us that because we get that you might not like the
So,
taste.
yeah, so first of all, I've never met a protein shake that actually blends well with anything. I'm not going to put it in my coffee because if you know, espresso, like you don't mess up a good cup of coffee. In addition to that, we know that the proteins oftentimes that are in these um oh, I'm sorry, the protein in these protein shakes are combined with, if there's whey protein, they usually have a lot of preservatives and a lot of things you can't even pronounce. And we know that preservatives and fillers cause inflammation in the body. So you're just slowing everything down. You're slowing the muscle protein synthesis. You're slowing the building of muscle. And so you're also slowing down your body's ability to, shed inflammation, shed weight. So yeah, I don't want to do that because I know that it doesn't help. It actually slows down. Nothing is
Yeah.
better than true protein, like complete
Oh, for
protein,
sure.
period. And so
Yeah, but I
yeah,
think for
that's
some of us that, you hear people say like you need to get so much protein in. Some people, some calculations go up to like 180 grams, which is a lot.
lucrative. That's
And
ludicrous.
yeah, and so it's like to get even to me, for me, even to get close to that 120, those shakes just come in handy,
Yeah, and
especially if
don't
your appetite is suppressed. So I think that that's why a lot of us are drinking them, because they just are the way to get you to that count. And they are quite filling. Like I take this one has 42 grams of protein in, and I thought, oh, it's just regular liquid. It really does like fill me up. So I
even
like that.
even the guy at my DEXA scan tech, he talks about himself taking protein shakes and or using protein shakes and stuff like that. So yeah, I think you got to do what you got to do. In a perfect world, people would eat whole foods, but
Yeah.
who am I? I'm blessed to be able to do that. If you can access whole foods and manage to eat it, then. I would
Yeah,
say
of
do
course,
that.
that is the best
Yeah.
way to get your protein. But yeah, so
Yeah.
I just wanted to say that because I don't want people to feel bad out there if they can't get in
Sorry, y'all. But
all
again,
that
this is just,
protein.
yeah, this is just really my personal sort of choice, Yeah, it's just my personal choice. Yeah, for me, I don't want it. But yeah, but I certainly understand that there is a place for it and people need to take it oftentimes to get their nutritional needs met. So definitely no shade on anybody. So yeah.
Now we didn't talk about this. And you may have mentioned hit on it a little bit, but did you ever track your calories?
Um, kind of like calorie. I think I previously years before, actually, yeah, the carb manager app. So I was putting things in there. But I mostly focused on figuring out if I was getting enough protein because that's kind of what my doctor had
Right.
recommended. Making sure I was getting enough protein, making sure I was eating at least sort of 80/20 whole foods. And she was right because pairing those simple actions of getting a lot of protein, making it mostly whole foods, let's say 80/20 to 90/10, um, and my hormone stack, as I call it, those things were a really good recipe and I feel like definitely helped me through my health journey.
All right, very good. Now you talked about strength training earlier. Did you say how many times a week you were strength training? I can't remember if you
I
told
think
me
I
that.
did, but 3 times a week at least. And
Okay.
then I usually, on a fourth day, will do calisthenics, body weight exercises here at home, push-ups, planks, squats without weights. I do have weights at home. So sometimes if I feel like I want to do some extra work on my legs or something, because that's kind of a focus for me,
Mm-hmm.
I'll do that. But definitely 3 times a week, unless I'm sick, and even then, sometimes, unfortunately, I'm going to do 3 days of dedicated strength training per week for sure. And then Pilates, which is really body weight, right? Pilates
Yeah.
is resistance
Yeah.
training in itself. So for those who hate on Pilates, it's not stretching, it's a whole lot more. So yeah, so I do Pilates currently on Saturdays as well. So that could count as a fourth day. And then I
Yes,
walk pretty much every
definitely.
day of the week.
All right, very good. And so, you're walking every day too. So you're getting it in. So,
Yeah.
you have like some muscles, like you have been, working on those muscles, and we can tell your biceps are everything. And you said you started off at 158. You have lost 41 pounds, and that's awesome. That is awesome. Now,
Way
what do
more
you
than what I wanted to.
yeah, you didn't really seek out that
I
wasn't
didn't.
your starting goal. And I think that
Mhm.
that evolves over time. I've noticed so many people had one goal and then they ended up somewhere else. And I think that's why you give yourself a range. Some people I
Yes.
notice now have been giving themselves a body fat percentage that they want to, get to.
Mm.
A clothing size is another, goal you could have. And, if you want to push away from the scale, I can see
Yeah.
that.
True.
So I think that that's great. So what do you say to people who say like, okay, this lady lost 41 pounds. Why did she even need to take a GLP-1? What would you say to
Yeah. What do I say? No, joking.
that?
What I say is that we're going to find a lot out. Like, of course, I think you've mentioned this before as well. You and I very well know that there is a study going on, a maintained study that Lilly is running that'll be wrapped up in May of 2026. And what I say is that we're going to learn a lot about a lot of different sort of demographics. So people who end up using these hormones the way I use them, which is lower doses and staying at lower doses because maybe we don't have a lot of adipose tissue to get rid of. And I call it adipose tissue because this is all technical. This is all body. This is obesity is a disease. I didn't have the disease of obesity. Was I overweight? For my body and and just my historical makeup, yes, I was. I was. I think we're going to find out a lot about how these meds are going to be used in the future. A lot of that's going to be dictated by this study, I believe. We know that women in middle age need the type of support that I believe um, this hormone, GLP-1s, GIPs, glucagon, blah, 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 that they provide, which is inflammation that comes with mid-age, um, joint pain, um, sleep, so many things. So, yeah, for people who say that, I would just say that you got to get outside the box. You don't want us to be in a place in this health community or even the GLP community. I count myself a part of the greater health community, but you don't want to be in a place where people are bullied for wanting to better their health. Why would we wait until somebody, got to a point where they were either obese or morbidly obese to support themselves? Why? And why not pair lower doses of GLP-1s with hormones or other remedies to live the best life? My goal is health span, meaning that I don't want to just live into my 90s. I want to be able to use the restroom by myself, shower by myself, grocery shop, pick up bags, bend down without throwing out a hip and falling or doing something like one of my good friend's mom did a few days ago. So that's the goal. And so, yeah. So let's not let people who are often bullied become the bullies by, building a fence around remedies that can help the greater community, especially women.
I agree. I agree. And I believe in preventative care. I really do.
Yes.
And if you have insurance, you know all about that. I know people who have insurance and don't use it. And I think preventative care is excellent. And I think this GLP-1 kind of reminds me of that. And I think, that our healthcare system is so messed up because we don't really practice preventative care. We're very reactive and not proactive. And I think, why not catch a person that is overweight before they get to become obese? I think it would help insurance companies with all the, things that they have to, pay for and the tests that they have to, conduct to keep us healthy. So I just think that this is a proactive way to do it. And I love that chose this as an option to take care of your health and to, get yourself back on track. So
Yeah, bravo to
kudos
my
to
doctor.
you.
Yes, bravo to my doctor. And she's everything in terms of her skill and her wisdom to be a younger doctor. She is incredible. Shout
So
out.
you lost 41 pounds, man. What did you do with your clothes? Because I mean, that's sizes, girl. That is
Yeah,
sizes.
those are sizes. Well, I had some things that were actually smaller as well, just because, you know, I I had been a certain size. When I remember when I was a vegetarian, not a vegetarian, I was actually a macrobiotic vegan. I was a vegan. I didn't eat eggs. I wasn't a vegetarian because a lot of vegetarians do eat like eggs and sometimes some
Hmm.
dairy. I
Hmm.
didn't at all. And I was like, so I've been 105 in my adult life. So, especially when I was vegan, because you just don't eat a lot of fat. And some fat is good, by the way, especially when you're a woman.
Yes.
You need some curves. You need, some cushion. So, yeah, I didn't set out to do that, but yeah, some things I donated. They needed to be donated anyway because they were just sitting there. I wasn't wearing them when I could wear them. So, some smaller things got discarded. Well, donated. And then some things that were larger, and for me, larger was like a 10, maybe 8, 10, just because for me and my body makeup and my bone structure, yeah. So I donated a lot of stuff, gave some things away to some close friends as well.
Yes, and I know people are listening like a 10, that's my goal size. Well,
I
you
know.
know what? Some people, think about it. Some people, my weight is their goal size. My 14, 16 is their
Absolutely.
goal size.
Period.
Somebody a size 18 is their goal size, right?
That's right. That's right.
They're hoping they get to that. So I think it's all relative to where you're at. So I want people to know that when they're watching, the people that are out here in the GLP-1 community, and not thinking that everybody had to start off at 250 or everybody had to start out at 300 or 400 pounds. And so, yeah, every journey is to be respected and appreciated. So I love that. I love that. All right. So, Mel, let me ask you. I always love this question because it's so insightful. I want you
Yeah.
to tell me, what is a word that would describe you before taking the GLP-1? What's one word that would describe you and where
You know
you were
what?
at?
I don't want to give GLP-1 that type of credit because GLP-1 is not is not the story. I think the story is for me, um, before I started my health journey.
Yeah.
So
So
because
before you started the health journey, what word would describe?
um, okay, you're like, okay, but you know how I feel about that. Like I don't, and not to veer off, but I think a lot of people treat GLP-1 as God. Like, oh, I don't know what I would do. There's no way okay, relax. I get it. Like we get it. And some people do need to be on these meds forever, but at some point, what did you do? And I know what I did, and I feel that Zepbound was probably 20% of the results that you see today. Not to toot my own horn, but I'm gonna toot it, toot, toot, because it was me working out, me making a choice to eat a certain way, me hydrating, me focusing on sleep hygiene, estradiol, testosterone. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So creatine, like it was a stack, a plethora of things. So I just want to say for me, and I do get that this is life saving for a lot of people. For me, I will give it some of the credit, but not most of the credit. I'll give it maybe 20%. It was a part of my journey, my health journey. So to answer your question, I think your question was, how would I describe myself before?
Before your health journey.
Frustrated.
Frustrated. Oh, that's a good word. That's a good, and I can see
Frustrated.
why you had all those things going on. That
Like,
stubborn
okay.
menopause weight in the middle will get anybody
And
frustrated.
COVID on top
Yeah.
of it,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was a
So how
lot.
would you describe yourself now? Because I don't feel like your health journey is over. I feel like you're still figuring things out, but you're at a level where you're maintaining, right? But so how would you feel now? How is the fabulous male feeling today?
Well, so I'm feeling phenomenal. Um, I feel strong. I feel stronger than I've ever felt. I feel strong, resilient, focused, clear, um, unstoppable, optimistic. But I would also say that I'm going to give you some breaking news.
Break it down.
You may, I don't know. Is it breaking? Did you know anything about this? No, you may have known. Um, so I have not been, I was finding myself at a place where I was struggling to really eat enough. And so, well, for a long time, since last year, I was, I think I had started maybe taking Zepbound every 2 weeks and then every 3 weeks and then finally once a month. And then I was having issues late summer, early fall, September, October, no, yeah, September, October, November. And I I found myself not really being able to eat a lot. So I had talked to my doctor and we were like, okay, well, we'll pull back. Let's see how you feel. And so I stopped taking Zepbound. And then, so that's what I've been doing for the past few months. So we'll see where that goes. We'll see what I decide to do. Yeah,
And I will
but for
say it,
right
I
now,
did know that, and you've been still doing well. You've still been doing well. This is why I say, and dare I repeat it? But this is why I say on my channel, the GLP-1s are great. I probably wouldn't be to the point I'm at with the assistance of the GLP-1. I know I wouldn't be, but I also know that the point I'm at now has been a lot of things that I've done, lifestyle changes I've incorporated, things that, when I could have decided to eat at 2 a.m. when I couldn't sleep, I did not.
You did
And the
not eat late.
medication didn't tell me I did not. I mean, I wanted to. I just said, no, I got to stick to my goal. So it's a lot of examples like that that I can give, but I do know that it is also you. And so now you have proven that to yourself because you've been still maintaining what you've been doing without the GLP-1. And I don't want anybody to feel like if you can't maintain, because, we still have a
Yeah.
story to tell here. So I don't, if you can't do it, it's okay because we know that this obesity is a disease and some of us may not be able to do it without the medicine. And this is why every journey is different and you just have to appreciate every journey and appreciate where you are in your journey, right? So, well, thank you for sharing that.
Thank you. Yeah, I just, again, I don't like to be out there in chats and things like that talking about it because I don't think it's something that you can say without putting a little bit of conversation around it. And so
Yeah.
for me, like at some point, and there may be other people that feel like this too, like at what point do you stop losing weight? Like for me, I didn't want to, I lost more than what I wanted to. And part of that, as you know, is that I was on a cruise and I ended up getting COVID on that cruise and came back with COVID, lost about 4 or 5 pounds and have just wasn't able to bring it back on. Just wasn't able to. And now I'm kind of up to, down to, up to, down to, but I'll jump on the scale and just be like, oh, well, you know what I'm saying? So I've resigned myself to be here and my focus is health, longevity, um, for me, muscle. I know that's not everybody's goal, but I do want to gain a little bit more muscle. Not so much losing fat, but definitely gaining a little bit more muscle.
Now,
And
what's your strategy to gain the muscle? As you talked about it, and not just because I know, but for people who don't know, because you and I chat, but for people who don't know, what's your strategy to gain muscle without gaining fat and
yes.
losing? Because you don't want to lose either.
Right. I don't want to lose. So for me, it's definitely eating enough calories, always striving for a couple thousand, 2,200 really is what I should be eating, but always, pushing myself to get enough calories, even if that means eating a little bit earlier than what my body wants to. So there's that making sure I get healthy fats, more healthy fats like grass-fed butter, maybe mix it up with a little fattier cut of meat, even when I have salmon, instead of having a fillet, having a salmon steak that tends to be a little bit more fatty. So having healthier fats, making sure that I eat upward of my calories, for a woman of my size. Um, and also making sure that I'm doing that strength training. So making sure that strength training is a part of what I do is extremely important. And making sure that I take my supplements, my basic supplements, my multivitamin, and a couple of other things, and plus that creatine. So it kind of simple, really, but just I have to eat more. I have to eat more, and what I eat has to be mostly whole food because the other stuff is not going to do it for my goal, which is to build muscle and
Right.
not lose weight. So
Right, right. All right, very good. Thank you for that. So let me just ask you, if you had to give advice to a newbie that was on a health journey, a GLP-1 journey, whichever road you want to go down, what would you tell them?
what would I tell them? I would say make sure that you're optimized from a hormonal standpoint. And this is for men and women because, we know men go through andropause, and you've talked about it many times. You do a great job advocating for men and women, especially those in midlife. I would say make sure you understand your body makeup. Don't sit there and be a order taker. Be involved, advocate for yourself, ask questions. My mantra for my team this coming year is be curious. So I would say be curious about your own health. Doctors are not gods. Many doctors do not or don't have the certification to give you the type of advice that you're going to need to be successful in your journey. So for me, I definitely would say make sure you understand where you are medically. And I'm not talking about my A1C is this, my body fat is that. No, dig deeper. Do you have a thyroid issue? Are you low on estrogen? Are you low on testosterone? Where are you? How about FSH, which is follicle stimulating hormone? Like, know your numbers, demand a blood panel. And if for some reason you have a doctor that refuses, go to a provider, go to LabCorp, call LabCorp locally, call Quest, and they do it. Pay a couple of $100, invest in yourself. We spend a couple $100 on apps and doing all kinds of stuff and know your numbers. So that's the number one thing I would say. And then once you're armed with that information, make sure that you don't take this opportunity for granted. I'm a big believer in, I don't believe in this idea of, and I know there are people who believe in it, and some of the people who believe in it are people that I like and I subscribe to or I am friends with online, whether they're a creator or a subscriber. And some people say, just take the shot. I don't agree with that. What if the access got cut off? What if there was a medical reason why you couldn't take Zepbound? Like don't, or Mounjaro or Ozempic or Wegovy. Like don't just lean on that. Make lifestyle changes. This is not just about being losing weight, because if you end up on the other side of your weight loss journey, for those who consider this just a weight loss journey, you're going to end up on the other side of that probably skinny fat and definitely not optimized. Just like if you don't address your hormones, if you don't address your hormones, it's going to take you longer. And I know most people want to get through that initial phase and get that excess weight off, for those people with the disease of obesity and for those who have the condition of being overweight. So those are kind of my top things.
All right, very good. That's great advice. Great advice. And I would agree with that. So let's just play a little game. We're almost to the end here. This is so
Yay.
wonderful. So I'm going to say
Love
a
games.
word, and I want you to come up with the first thing that comes to your mind. If you feel the need to explain it, explain it. And you guys are probably saying, they know each other so well. She knows the words. She
You don't
absolutely
tell me nothing.
not.
Nothing. Okay. I'm like, what are we
Okay.
doing tonight? You
Okay,
wait, you wait. Okay, go ahead.
so your first word is GLP-1. The first word that comes to mind.
Cool.
Cool. Okay, good. What about element?
Daily.
Daily. Okay, good. What about compounds?
Not a fan.
Not a fan. Okay, you're not a fan of the compound. You want to tell us why? We'll talk about that later if you want to tell us why. Strength training.
Necessary.
Necessary. Okay, great. Menopause.
The abyss of hell. No, I'm joking. I'm teasing. Menopause. God, so many words. My word for menopause, the first word, actually, the thing I thought about was not the end. Not the end.
Okay, very good. Maintenance.
Easy breezy.
Easy breezy. According to Mel B. Family.
Everything.
Everything. I love that. Women's health.
The future.
The future. Okay, very good, very good. And finally, YouTube.
Cray cray.
That is hilarious. Okay, okay. All right. So, do you want to talk about the compounds of it all, or you just want to leave it at that?
I'll say one thing. The only thing that I would say about compounds is that they're not all made equally. I live in a place where there's a compounding pharmacy. Um, it's called Hallandale. And I got some skin cream, tretinoin. It was compounded specifically at a certain strength for me by my dermatologist when I went from regular retinol to prescription strength tretinoin, which is everything, by the way. That's a whole nother conversation about beauty and things like that. But yeah, they're not all made the same. So a Hallandale, for example, is a compound pharmacy that is reputable. The issue I have is with some of the providers that have taken advantage of the GLP-1 space, and some of them actually didn't start until GLP-1s were introduced. And so what that says to me is that the focus is definitely taking financial advantage, although they are businesses, right? They're in business to make money. The only other issue, I would say issue number two, and then I'll leave it at that, is that, now we don't really understand when you mix the API, the Tirzepatide, that active pharmaceutical ingredient. There are no studies to show what mixing that API with niacinamide, B12, whatever else it's being mixed with, there's no clinical data to show how that interacts and what that does inside your body. Does it minimize the impact? I mean, and then there's also just a lot of variability depending on the batch. And there's nothing that shows where the API is truly coming from. And again, Lilly, Novo, they are required to show every single step, document where their API, which they own, is coming from. So it's not about being against that people's access. I want people to have access. I just am an advocate for more stringent regulations around the API. So yeah,
The safety part of it all.
safety part, absolutely.
All right. Well, I'm glad you took time out to explain that and to say you're not against it and you want people, as you're not against people having access to it. You just want it to be safe and fully vetted.
Yeah, and right now there's just not a process, and it's not people's fault either, you know. So yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, before we leave, I was going to ask you, where do you see compounding being here in the future? And I'm not talking about compounding in general because we know there's a need for that, but I'm talking about as far as the GLP-1 situation.
Yeah. So trying to get me in trouble here. I think that it will probably be um it'll be around, but I think it's going to be tight. It may not, this bill that was introduced by the bipartisan senators from Indiana, where Lilly's headquarters is, that bill is tough, and I don't think that's going to cut the mustard. I think that that bill will morph eventually into something that will likely end up being um, some limitations on compounds, and I think that's going to impact people's ability to use it. But at the same time, I wonder if compound goes away, does that now lower Lilly's cost even more? But Lilly and Novo are both lowering the cost of access to their medications, and I think that's a good thing. We also know, you and I know, I don't think many people have talked about it in the community, but we know that orforglipron, well, first of all, Novo just announced the cost and the pricing for their Wegovy oral pill, daily pill. And Lilly has also, on December 19th, actually, has also announced that the pricing for orforglipron, Newsbreak, will be from $149 for the lowest dose up to $399 for the highest dose. So yeah, so you'd be looking at like 149 for the first dose, 249 for the second highest dose, and so on and so forth. So some staggered pricing, but it is posted on Lilly's website under news releases and articles, or that section of their website. So they've already said what they're going to do. So we already know. Now, there's an opportunity for them to come in a little lower. if then Novo, maybe they'll do that too. But we know at the minimum that people will be able to gain access starting at 149 and going up no higher than 399. And then of course they've got their other things that they're working on, introducing it for $50 for Medicare, the ability for people who are paying out of pocket to have access as cash pay to the quick pin as long as they have prescriptions. So yeah, and Lilly also has telehealth platforms that can be accessed through their website. So I think you're definitely going to see some changes as it relates to compound. There's no way that the FDA is going to continue to allow it at the scale that it's at right now. I don't believe so. So I hope that Lilly does the right thing and Novo does the right thing and continues to lower the pricing um, on these life-changing medications for many people. So yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think it's going to happen too. Would you take orforglipron? Would you take that? Because especially since you're in maintenance, right?
Probably, since I'm not on anything right now, would I get a prescription and have it, so that if I felt that I needed it or needed something, maybe. My doctor and I were talking about that a few weeks ago when I was in there for my hormone panels. And she was saying she wants to learn more about it, but she says she understands the safety profile is great. And she believes in like microdosing for inflammation, long-term health, all the things. So there's that all the things again. Um, so yeah, I would consider it. Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. For sure.
All right, very good, very good. So let me ask you, has there been what's the best thing about optimizing your health and using a GLP-1 to do it? What has been the best thing about that?
I think for me, it's been knowledge because as a result of me, starting hormone replacement therapy, including the GLP-1, at that point, I was really taking interest in my own health. And part of it was because I started feeling so good. So
Yeah.
for me, I would say really the knowledge that I've gained through research. And again, because of that initial feeling better and the initial success that I had, got me really interested in my health. And it did so much for me in terms of my knowledge because I was interested, I was successful. And when you're successful at something, you get excited and then you want to go
Right.
and learn this. And so that's for me sort of the highlight.
Is there a worse thing? Is there something that you don't care for?
Oh, did I say? Oh, okay. So the worst thing it not I just I think there's a lot of misinformation and if anything, I think that's it. And I feel bad for people cuz people just want to get better. People want to feel
Yeah.
better. And I think there's a lot of misinformation out there. I think people need to consult their doctors and make sure they're seeing a doctor, no matter how you're accessing the meds, Lilly Direct or a compounding pharmacy. You need to talk to someone who's a professional who understands your journey. And yeah, that's what I would say. The misinformation of it all, as you would say.
Yes, of it all. So somebody who understands your journey and not all just understands it, but advocates for you, wants the best for you, and listens to you. Even though you have an expertise, I still think you have to listen to the patient. And I know a lot of people don't want to take the time, energy, effort to find another doctor or to be on the search. But I feel like this is one of the things, if you're going to invest time into it, like we were reclaiming our time in 2026. But if you're going to
Yes,
invest your time in something, that's one of the best things you can do is find a great doctor that supports you and wants the best for you. And they're out there. They might be, it might sound like it's a hard find, but if they're out there,
they're there.
you gotta take the time to search for it. So, well, that just brings us to the end of our conversation. Is there anything at all you want to share? You want to say? I mean, I don't know. This has been fabulous. The male to the B. Is there anything else you want to leave us with?
Um, I think the only thing I would leave people with is just advocate for yourself. Don't be afraid. Again, doctors are not gods, they're not kings. Advocate for yourself, ask questions, be curious, and make lifestyle changes for your overall health. We're going to live a long time, most of us. Women are living into their 90s, right?
Yes.
Even men are living a little bit longer now because men obviously don't live as long as women in the United States. But yeah, besides advocating for yourself, making some lifestyle changes. This is not easy. This isn't easy, not if you're doing it right. So you got to make some lifestyle changes. And then with the support of your meds, you should be just fine.
Yes, very good. Great advice. And I just want to thank you. Thank you for taking time out. We chat all the time, but to sit down for an interview, isn't it a whole nother thing? It
Yeah.
sounds like it would be so easy, but it's not that easy. So I appreciate you taking time out. And thank you so much for all you do with the GLP-1 community. You're so supportive. You are, you're just out there, you're giving out information. You're definitely an advocate, and not just for women's health, but I just think for the overall health of everyone. So you are into the health of it all. So I appreciate that. We appreciate you. And
Hey,
enjoy the rest of your night, your week. And Happy New Year. Happy
Happy
early New
New
Year.
Year. Happy New
I
Year to you
won't
and
say, oh, thank you. Thank you. So I won't say goodbye. I'll say, I'll see you in the next video, or in our case, see you on the next live.
there you go. Thank you.
Bye.
Mwah.
Thank
Love ya.
you. Love you. Bye bye.
Bye.
Downsizing.